All right, just fix your mic a little bit too. Yeah.
Voila.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to station with attitude, Suppa Duppa Morning Show. We got some guests joining us in the building. Political season is in the air, and we got members of PFP in the building. Party Progress. We have the leader of PFP, Melissa Gumbs. Good morning, Melissa. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Joined by her partner in Socks Crime, Mr. Raeyhon Peterson. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Super. Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. Good morning to the both of you. And you guys are gearing up with the upcoming parliamentary elections.
Yes,
and
sir.
PFP is once again contesting those elections, which will be held in January. I believe on Wednesday, which is the Postulation Day, PFP will be one of the first parties to hand in their list.
Yeah.
Okay.
We hand in the list at 9 a.m.
Mhm.
So we're inviting anyone who wants to come and show their support to help us walk in the list at 8:30. We gather at the square and then bebop our way over to Parliament.
Is that something you guys chose, or that you had to pick out of a hat? How did it happen?
So the voting bureau sends out an email with all the time slots available, and it's first come first serve. So
Oh, okay.
we had someone waiting there, Johnny on the spot, and to reply one time to select the 9 a.m. time slot. I like to just do it early in the morning, get it out of the way.
All right, now I'm sure Ray might be like, "Why not? That's too early for me, man."
Right? We could have done 10, but it's okay.
So speaking about 10, how many people do you have on the list actually this time around?
10.
10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now
10.
that's up from 8 the last time.
Yes. And remember, we had to replace 3.
Uh-huh.
So we had 2 members that decided not to run for personal reasons, and then we had removed 1 member, so we had to find those, and then it was just a matter of finding 2 more to kind of fit into the dynamic of the party. Yeah.
Okay, and that officially will be revealed, handed in
Yes, sir.
on Wednesday. I think
Yes.
most people might know already who is who, but Wednesday, the rest of the public will know
Yes.
Postulation. So today in the news, I saw that the curtain is coming down.
Yeah.
That's an initiative that was tabled by PFP, right?
Yes. So basically, it was something that I actually an idea that I had, and I had told Raeyhon from since last campaign. The former head of the voting bureau, Jason Rogers, had mentioned it in one of the sessions that we had with all the party representatives, because I think someone from the SMCP had asked, what about electoral reform?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, electoral reform can be many things. Lots of people think it's changing the constitution, but it could be small things as well, taking down the curtain, barcoded ballots, electronic voting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the last one, we're not there yet. But there are other smaller measures that can be taken, and the curtain was one of them. So we requested that the Prime Minister investigate the possibility of removing it last year in September in a letter to her person, and then she responded in December relatively favorably. And then earlier this year, I think in March, we had a legislative lawyer assist us with drafting the LB-HUM that would the national decree containing general measures that would then make that change possible. In the interest of assisting government, because at the end of the day, we know that there are capacity issues. There's a lot of things going on. There are many, different priorities and moving parts. So we said, just to be of that help, let's send it in. And Ray looked at it. Everybody looked at it, confirmed that it was good. We sent it in, and I'm happy that that we've come to this point now.
Yeah. Now you did have some MPs that kind of push back at the idea that why are we wasting our time with the curtains? There's other things more important that we should focus on. What would you have to say about something like that? Because the word on the street, a lot of people are saying, listen, I'm happy PFP is in Parliament, but I'm kind of disappointed at the same time because I feel that they could have done more. I feel that they could have been out there more. They could have been a little bit more aggressive. That's what a lot of people are saying when it comes to PFP.
Well, I have the reputation of being pretty aggressive in Parliament, to be honest. But you see, when I hear that, Super, I tell people, it's funny because if you look at the statistics of what PFP has done compared to the other factions in this term, we have sent out the most initiatives, we have asked the most questions, and that's part of the job, and of course the sensationalism is not something that we always like, because that doesn't come with any results. For example, this whole curtain thing, we've heard, for example, that you guys didn't legislate. Well, the role of Parliament is actually to co-legislate, but in this particular case, we can see that even government had some capacity issues, and seeing that, we decided, what, let's, on our own cost, let's get a lawyer to help out with this LB Hum. Of course, we need to understand that an LB Hum is on the authority of Parliament.
Mhm.
That is the job of the executive branch of government. But in light of, let's say, to work together, we decided, here's a draft, you guys can work with it and see if that helps. And in this particular case, we can see that it actually did.
Yeah.
PFP, an opposition party, started electoral reform for Country St. Martin, and that this is the first piece of legislation that actually points towards that.
Yeah.
So, I would just tell people, just check what we have done in Parliament. Of course, not looking at the show, not looking at who's the loudest, but who's the most effective.
Yeah, and I think there's also this, it's something that has been I think culturally ingrained in us, that Parliament is meant to just crank out laws. But I think Raeyhon has done a great job of explaining that there is a risk of over legislation.
Mm.
We have legislation. What we have a problem with is enforcement
Okay.
of said legislation and the completion of certain pieces of legislation
Yeah.
that need to be executed by government.
Mhm.
Another LBHAM we've talked a lot about that we didn't bother to write is the one regarding tendering that is required by the law.
Mhm.
So those are, I think, the little nuances that that persons miss. And I think that it's unfortunate because you have MPs that continue to push that misconception, because it makes it, and I guess it gives them a little shine.
Yeah, it's a little bit of
Um,
cloud chasing.
but
Like,
one
Got it,
thing-
boy. Got it.
One thing we've always said is, we're going to be open and transparent with people and explain to them exactly what this role is. I'm not going to continue a misconception that's kind of plagued us for 13 years. And I
Mhm.
mean, we've been 2 seats in opposition now for 4 years. And I always think it's funny because I'm like, okay, well, what have some of our other colleagues done? You have
we have a set of
two members
colleagues.
of the coalition that have been there the same amount of time, also new to politics, also new to Parliament, and I can't actually tell you what has happened.
Or ask all of the colleagues that go to Parlatino every 2 to 3 weeks, and see if we have anything tangible coming from that, and all
Yeah.
of those the $1,000 that we have spent.
Yeah, so I think it's a matter of just re-educating persons on what has to happen. If you look at parliamentary democracies around the world, majority of the time the legislation is not coming from them because they are co-legislators.
Mhm.
That's the system that we exist in. So I think it's important to keep that in mind.
All right, let's talk about some of the issues that is plaguing the country currently. Of
Mhm.
course, minimum wage, the poverty line.
Yeah.
These are things that PFP said that they were going to work on once once they're in Parliament. How are some of these things you guys have worked on so far? Any ideas? Any legislation when it comes to the poverty line, minimum wage?
Yeah.
I think that's more on a government level. What else can we talk about? The general health care, insurance, lots of things that people are upset about and concerned about, especially when it comes to job security
Yeah.
and the cost of living.
I think that's why we've made it clear this time around in our manifesto, and I was even asked the question yesterday, and I said, no, this time around we are gunning for government. Last time we made the conscious decision to sit in opposition, to learn. With 2 seats, I didn't think we had any business be jumping into a coalition just right out off the bat. And it has been a very deep learning experience for us, and it's just solidified many of the things that we talked about previously. And I think that persons also, we have championed those issues from Parliament. Again, in opposition, we've asked the questions regarding two things that have been a concern for us, regarding education, regarding financial management, regarding how social affairs is being handled. There
health
still is no health insurance. Well, the health insurance, it's coming, but we have not seen it, received it, reviewed it. But even those things are, of course, a concern for us. A deeper concern for me too is the functioning of the hospital. Where is that going? What is going to be in that hospital after? You have persons that have questions about what has happened to their loved ones after they go into SMMC. And I think that there's a lot of clarity that should be provided. And all of those things are things that we've championed from the 2 seats that we have. We've tried to be, as loud as possible. We've tried to hold ministers accountable, even in light of high councils of state saying that they need to be held accountable. But I think people will see that, if there are persons willing to protect whatever is going wrong for the sake of politics, then it's tough. But that's why this time around, we're making it clear. This time around, we're not playing.
All right. Now, a lot of people said that you guys kind of picked him a boy, Eggy, man. You picked on Vromi a little bit too much. They say that's Ray's baby. He wanted it back, and that's why he was gunning towards the ministry of Vromi.
Well, I never had Romy. Super Kid,
That
if I'm being completely honest, I was a mere acting head of domain affairs, and as we all saw, my then minister decided to remove me.
Uh-huh.
So unfortunately, indeed, we did go at Vromi a lot, but that's because it is the ministry that has the most issues.
Mhm.
It is the only ministry that currently has a report from the ombudsman that basically says corruption has taken place. It is the only ministry that right now is basically hands are tied because we cannot give out long lease land
Yeah.
because the notaries, given the fact that the ministry did not put in the policy in place that we have been asking for since day one, that we have reiterated in our motion disapproval, and when we tried with the motion of no confidence. And Supake, it's not us picking on a particular ministry. It's just the fact that 80% of the complaints that I get from the people is stemming from that ministry.
Yeah.
Building permits not being issued that have been sitting there for a year to a year and a half. Yet you hear that other building permits for other particular individuals within the community, those are being signed within a week or two.
Mhm.
And these are concerns when it comes to government land. We have been asking, where is the policy? Where is the policy for a fair and transparent process to get government land, long lease land? There is none. They tried to bring us a draft that was laughable to if I'm being nice, and it just shows me that it's not being taken serious.
Mhm.
And right now we have a situation where the notaries even decided, well, you know what?
Yeah.
Every single new long lease issuance, we are not going to sign these deeds. We are not going to work with this minister unless we have some guarantee that he is actually being fair and transparent as per what they call the deed almares.
Mhm.
That we are at this point in time, 2 months before election, it says a lot of what the ministry has done and where the ministry has landed within these last 4 years. And you can patch up a couple of potholes, but that's not going to fix these issues.
Yeah. And I think persons also, I find it funny because for me, Parliament's one of our most critical tasks, in fact, our most important task, is the supervision of government. The are you doing things according to the law?
Mhm.
And there seems to be this perpetuated idea of, well, building permits, long lease land, etc., is a secret thing, and I'm like, that's public domain.
It's
That's
public
your
domain.
land.
Mhm.
Like that's literally it. It's a service. It's not something. It's not a favor that you're doing to people
Mhm.
to issue a building permit or anything like that. And then you, like I said, like Raeyhon mentioned, you have persons coming to us, to other MPs as well, and we go about it with the powers that we have available to us, which is Parliament. I don't go on the radio and scream about it, but you have to use what is available to you. So when you have people coming to you and saying these things are happening, it's a concern. And I think at the end of the day, persons need to be aware that government is not spending money that they have magically gotten out of thin air. They're spending your money.
Yep.
When they tender
It's
incorrectly, it's
budgeted
your
for.
money.
Mhm.
When they don't pay someone, they're not paying them with your money. When they do pay someone who's done a shoddy job, it's your money. And I think that's something that we continuously stress on.
Mhm.
You know what, Melissa? To talk about tendering, I think that within the next month or two, we are going to have some tenders up again. I think when it comes to trenching, I think also for roadside cleaning,
Mhm.
and we still do not have a national decree containing a general measures and LBHM as per the Complementarverordening that regulates how government has to do tenders.
Mhm.
There are no rules for that, and guess
Yeah.
what? That is the exact same type of case that the ombudsman sounded the alarm on and said, "Hey, guys, we seem to have established that there have been some questionable dealings when it comes to this process."
Right.
And I am pretty sure that if we look and if we would assess these tenders that are upcoming within the next 2 months, we're probably going to end at the same conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Now speaking about our money, that you just mentioned, Melissa, what about tax reform? Because that's also something that a lot of people have been complaining about, especially
Yes.
the small man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I will be honest, which we always seek to be. I have learned more about tax reform plans by going to events in the community than I have sitting in Parliament.
Mhm.
It seems as though ideas are tossed out to see if they will maybe stick or how they kind of land in the
Right.
community before a decision is taken. I just the other day we were at a conference where there was a slide that had a list of proposed changes pertaining to tax reform, and I was taken aback. I had to take pictures of the slides, which I normally never do because I had never seen most of these items or topics before.
Right.
From the one thing that has been repeatedly said since 2021 is, lowering of the profit tax has not happened as yet. Simplifying the tax brackets has not happened as yet. So I'm as curious as the people. And that's unfortunate to say, and a little embarrassing to say, because again, I'm a member of parliament, but again, in the opposition. So I'm not in a special group chat. So yeah.
But I do want to mention that two of our candidates, MP Ludmila de Weaver and
Patrice,
Minister
yeah.
Patrice Gumbs, they have been actively working on such a plan for tax reform.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah.
they also be on the show. So I think you should ask them that question as well. Super
Yeah.
Kid.
Okay. Now speaking about MP Ludmila de Weaver, she has said that she is now part of PFP. How did that whole thing happen? I mean, we did see when she basically stepped away from the up party, but then you kind of saw her moving a little bit towards a PFP.
Yeah.
Is it? I'm sure it's official by now.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Yeah, but how did that whole link up meeting happen? That she said, you know what, I think I'm gonna join this particular political party instead.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for MP de Weaver, and I had a lot of respect for her as well when she was Minister de Weaver. Mainly, we both come from private sector. We've both lived similar experiences in the finance industry and the trust industry on an international scale. So there were things that people would even say, well, you're not questioning Minister de Weaver about XYZ. I'm like, well, yeah, because what she's saying is actually sensible, and it makes sense, and I understand it. So and then basically, we publicly supported her economic recovery plan in 2020. It actually contained a lot of the tax reform measures that we ourselves had spoken about in our manifesto. We put out that support for it, and at a time when her own coalition did not seem to support it. Like, it seemed like they were essentially dragging her down, or not even there was nothing. When she came to parliament, it was clear to see the fraying start at the edges, and then just continue. And earlier this year, I think we had a conversation, and I said, look, the door is open for professionals that align with our vision and with our values and our principles. And if you want to take that conversation further, I'm always down for some gelato. And eventually in parliament, we also began to align, even though, whether she was still a member of the up party, even when she declared herself independent. And I think that is important. Not that you're just going along to get along, but that, there were active conversations. Okay, well, why do you guys see this like this? Etc. And then it just kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, and you could have kind of seen it too when it came to the voting, because when it comes to the votes that particularly were about accountability, she seemed to sway towards voting with let's say the opposition, but basically for accountability. Although behind the scenes we can attest to the fact that her coalition wasn't happy with that, and when she puts what her job is first, that shows integrity. And so automatically, going to work every day, it kind of aligned. I think that was inevitable.
Yeah.
So you guys agree with her sentiment? Stop thieving.
Yeah.
Yes, but not only for a year.
For all
let's
time.
stop
Yeah. Let's
thieving
just in
forever.
general.
Yeah.
In general. Yeah.
What about the GB saga right now that's going on? That's plaguing a lot of people as well.
Well, I thought we were going to have a meeting about that this week. However, that's not what I see on the docket for today. We have a question hour with the Minister of Teat instead, but it is again one of those scenarios where I requested the first meeting regarding that issue. It was a question hour with the Minister of Rami last year, because at the time he was the one that was responsible, and then suddenly along the way it became the Prime Minister. But from that question hour, from the other meetings that have been called, it is you're essentially told what you're told, and then you kind of figure it out from there. But it's not that the information has been as forthcoming to us again, to say to us as opposition as it might have been to maybe coalition. I'm at the same boat with many of my fellow Samatnas. I have my invoices. There are some periods of usage where I was not even on the island, where I'm like, it's a little weird. So it's still an ongoing thing, I think, for everyone, and I do hope that eventually there is some clarity. I'm not sure if that meeting is going to happen. But it's, yeah, once it does, the same questions will be repeated.
Mhm.
I think that there's been a lot of time wasted on recovering data, and last year, decisive action should have been taken, which again, to me, is a result of not having a strong supervisory board in place,
Mhm.
of having a fragmented supervisory board. Because when you hear, you can hear rumors. It's a small island.
Yeah.
But I think that is it's a big issue. Yeah.
Mhm.
And also, we also speak about what our tools are as
Yeah.
MPs, and one of the tools that we have is the right of inquiry. And unfortunately, the first enquete, as we call it, that we have is concerning Mullet Bay,
Mhm.
which is not the intention of the law. That is not
Yeah.
what an inquiry is supposed to be. And by the way, we're still waiting on the results of said inquiry.
The report.
Yeah, I think we're about 6 months late now.
Mhm.
Yeah. It
But
was June.
but to come back, GB is a company that is, it has government ties, and the purpose of an enquete, an inquiry, is exactly that, to check, what is going on with these government related companies, and to see if there is something that went wrong when it comes to their policy or their executional authorities. But in this case, a GB inquiry, I think that would be best, to be
Mhm.
honest. I think that Parliament would do good in actually proposing such an inquiry, because then you go into the nitty gritty, you
Yeah.
find out why,
Right.
and you go through interviews, etc., with all of the employees, and you get to the bottom of what the issue is.
Mhm.
Right now, like Melissa said, they're doing damage control,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and that's about it. But damage control, while the damage continues to
Today,
grow,
yes.
then we all see where we end up.
Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Now, we're here with MP Melissa Gumbs and also MP Raeyhon Peterson this morning on the Suppa Duppa Morning Show. And elections coming up January 11th, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
January 11th, 2024. Postulation Day is this upcoming Wednesday, where PFP and other political parties will be handing in their official list, to the Central Voting Bureau. But also today in the news, has a lot of people concerned
Yeah.
and worried, especially when it comes to voting cards. We saw yesterday a press release came out from the government of St. Martin stating that several voting districts, have to pick up their cards on certain dates and certain
Yeah.
times. And persons were like, but I'm accustomed of my voting card being delivered to me. I know, okay, let's say maybe 2 weeks before, if I didn't receive my voting card, then I could go to the government building
pick it up, yeah.
to see what happened, or to pick it up or get
Yeah.
a copy printed. But now it seems like, okay, this seems like this is the only option, right? And I just saw government put out a little correction, a little graphic saying, "Oh no, you can pick it up. It's up to you, but
Yeah.
they will be mailed out." So a lot of people felt it was some type of
Yeah.
voter suppression.
I think it's well, I mean, the first release did come across like that.
Yeah.
It was a little. I had elderly senior citizens messaging me this morning saying, how are we supposed to get to pick up, all the way, especially those living Cold Bay,
Right,
Simpson
Simpson
Bay,
Bay,
etc. How am I supposed to get all the way there to pick up my voting card? And I think it's just just poor communication.
Mhm.
There are certain elements that need to be included in a press release. Anyone who has worked in PR or communications knows that. And if you don't,
five W's, who,
yes,
what, where, when, why,
exactly.
how,
And
how,
and if there are multiple of those, you need to put them all in there.
Yeah.
So I think I did get confirmation that, of course, it would still be mailed out, but then of course you have this period to pick up, what if you can.
Mhm.
And I think for those, especially in the immediate areas, that town, Soccer Garden, Dutch Quarter, Middle Ridge, and Defiance and such, should be possible
Mhm.
for you to come in. But then you also have persons messaging and saying, well, last time my voting station changed, so how do I know what day I should go,
Mhm.
where do I vote, etc. So I think the clarification definitely needed to be made. I think it needs to be amplified as well, because I even got messages from journalists in Curacao saying, what type of voter suppression craziness is this?
Right.
Kiko Rico.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it caused quite some concern and confusion. Because
Yeah.
you also have people that are not living here on the island but are still written in.
Yes.
So how do you expect me to go and pick up my card?
Yes.
You gotta fly in.
Yeah.
All those questions were there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the government had the right intention, and in the fact that they do have a capacity issue, and I think it was more along the line of, listen, guys, within this amount of period, you guys can come and
And pick
get
up your
it.
card
But
if you want.
yes,
Yeah.
but in any case, we are going to mail it. So I think if government had phrased it better to say, listen, guys, we are actually asking for some help.
Yep.
And I think that would have been a better way because, like you said, we have the rights for a fair and transparent elections, and voter suppression that not sending our voting cards to our houses, that is borderline voter
Yeah.
suppression. So that's and I think they did good today with the damage control, but again, reactive instead of proactive.
Yeah.
All right. Melissa Gumbs and NP Raeyhon Peterson here with us this morning, talking about the upcoming elections, which is in January. Anything else you would like to say? Closing off this interview to the public that are listening. Also, before we get into that, I know Melissa, you made a press release last week when it comes to the
One of the
erection
frames.
of
Mhm.
frames,
Frames,
and,
yes,
and
yeah.
political paraphernalia and all of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because we had, so as I mentioned earlier, there are meetings that you have with the Central Voting Bureau and the KPSM about public order. That is for before, after, and during the entirety of campaign and on election day itself, and it just governs how parties are expected to conduct themselves. The placement of materials. You can't obstruct traffic. You can't obstruct each other. And last Monday the 13th, we had a session where it was communicated to us that, look, the guidelines are not as yet published, but these are some of them. You're not supposed to place posters in roundabouts. You're not supposed to place on public land before midnight on Postulation Day. And then the very like 2 days after, we see frames being erected in the Bel Air roundabout on Colby Hill, the Colby roundabout and such. So it's curious because every party's representative was there. And the point of the representatives is to go back and communicate to the party,
These are the rules,
that these are the
guys.
rules.
But maybe those frames could have been for an upcoming jam
Nah,
session.
no,
man. Oh, you
no,
know.
because you wanna know how I know? Because even if it was for black on black, Skelet is a man that puts things up the day of. He's not gonna let the frame sit there empty for days with people wondering what is going on.
True.
So that's the thing. So I think it's not rocket science to figure out who that it's actually posters that are going up. And I think myself and Marvio as our official representatives, like, we communicated these are the rules.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. So if your party representative has not communicated that, then have a conversation with them. Or if they haven't, or if they have and you just decide, because that's also part of it. I mean, I can only speak for the team that's here. We move as a unit, operate as a unit, obey rules as a unit.
Y'all are one.
Yes.
Actually, one. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
If others hear it and say, well, whatever, I'm gonna do what I do.
But I think it's good that Melissa did send out an article to Suppa Kid. Why? Because we have had for the last 2 months, I have personally seen so much stuff that, to my opinion, my legal opinion, is illegal. Campaigning, pure campaigning happening outside of the campaign period, happening before Postulation Day. I have seen buses with people's names on it. I have seen people with their shirts out canvassing and stuff. And it's okay to do that now. But I have seen people doing this in summer.
It's Carnival.
Yeah,
Let's be real. It's Carnival.
So and that's not allowed. That's against the law. We're not supposed to be campaigning outside of what is meant to be campaign time. Why? Because you're emotionally hijacking the people, and we can't do anything about it because there's no authority that comes and say, hey, political party X, Y, and Z, you guys are overstepping. But we do have some legals, including the governor, that have raised an eyebrow at what is happening. But then what do we do about it?
Yeah.
All right. Now to wrap it up, this is the first time since becoming country that we will be having a election after 4 years.
Yes.
Stability.
Yeah.
They're welcome.
They're
very welcome.
There's no more snap elections. This is the first time.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are kind of like, whoa, this is different. This is new.
Yeah.
How do you talk to the masses out there who will be voting in this upcoming election to come out and vote? Because you still have a lot of people out there.
Yes, and
even after 4 years of the
precisely,
stability,
yeah.
I'm not coming out and vote.
But I think that's where I asked in my closing speech for the closing of the parliamentary year. I said, stability, but at what cost? Because the trust in government is at an all-time low, and I think that is my biggest concern. But I do urge everyone, as always, to still receive your voting card, whether you go to collect it, whether you receive it in the mail. If you don't receive it in the mail, be sure to speak out and go get it. It is your democratic right. There are countries that are quite literally still have people that are fighting, dying every day to have this right to vote in a free and fair democratic election. So we cannot take it for granted. Wherever you vote, just vote. I hope it lands on gold, but at the end of the day, as long as you go out and exercise your civic duty,
Yes.
because this is your
This
representation.
is your time in
Yes.
these 4 years to have a say, and it might seem like it doesn't mean a lot, but we are MPs because of you.
Yeah.
So that is something to be aware of. Always exercise your constitutional right, even if you're going to vote blank and you don't agree with anybody. That is fine. Just don't let your vote get lost, because we all know what happens then.
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, MPs, again for joining us today on the Suppa Duppa Morning Show.
Thank you.
Before you leave, question of the day, facebook.com/laser101. Let us know if you could live next to a relative or family member, which one would it be?
I actually live next to my brother and my cousin. So
I live next to my sister. So.
yeah,
You
we are one.
You don't
We
sound-
are one.
You don't sound too happy.
No, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. You know, many times you wake up on a Sunday like, I forgot to buy eggs. But you know who has eggs?
Your sister.
My sister.
All right.
Whenever I need cold water, I just go to my brother.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you
good
would
to go.
stay with who's there right now?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
would
yeah.
you swap them out?
No, I'm good with
You're
who's
good with
there.
it?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
even-
Most definitely.
All right, Laser 101 to you with attitude, Suppa Duppa Morning Show. Let's take a break. When we come back, more action going on. So stay tuned.